I don't know why I'm crying. I do know why I'm crying. I'm crying because he was so sincere in the way that he was so sincere in the way that he spoke and he comported himself throughout the interview. I don't even have to demonstrate anything. Everything that I've said during my comments on what I was observing during the interview, everything was just in practice at the end of it, when my reaction to what he was saying is this one. The reaction is this one because I'm reacting to a human being who's describing all of who he is. He's describing his fears. He's describing his losses of people that are no longer on with us. He's describing what his hope is for himself. Hi, everyone. I am so excited to do this episode 51 of Hey Stella podcast. I found this interview that I find it to be remarkable of the actor Mickey Rourke by Piers Morgan on his show Uncensored. I find it remarkable because I have seen it already being commented on by people, and they are surprised by Mickey Rourke's honesty. They are surprised by him calling Tom Cruise irrelevant in Mickey Rourke's world. They are surprised by the brutal, direct honesty when it comes to calling Amber Heard a gold digger. I'm surprised that all these commentary that are being made on social media all over the place are themselves surprised by his honest, sincere remarks. That's what blows my mind. Here we go.
Acting legend Mickey Rourke defies cancellation, a stunning and sometimes scandalous career spanning 40 years, including a lost decade in the Hollywood wilderness. He's fought and feuded with the titans of Tinseltown, has an opinion on almost everything, and I'm delighted to say he joins me now live from Los Angeles. Mickey, great to see you.
Great to see you.
I heard you mustering before we went to the commercial break, what does uncensored mean? And I would say you are an uncensored man.
Well, I'm my own man.
How have you been? I've interviewed you numerous times over the years. You look in great shape.
Yeah, the COVID thing actually helped me out a little bit because I was able to go around all the different sports shops and get all the workout equipment I needed for close to a year and a half. So I did nothing but train for, 45 minutes twice a day, and did a lot of reading and soul searching, and kind of tried to figure, I was working out a game plan for the third chapter and trying to go over all the mistakes I made the first two chapters and not making them again, because it just made life difficult for me, and
Self-reflection. Where do you guys think that he gets this from? He gets it from being such an amazing actor. He gets it from understanding what the actor's responsibility is to self-reflect, to self-explore. Because as actors, the only instrument that they have is the self, the whole self. So he is going into his training of an actor to use as a human being. The human being that he is has to be all tapped into, so he can bring infinite number of different personalities, emotions, honesties, truths to the characters that he plays. He gets it. He knows how to do it, because great actors, and I consider him to be a great actor, are required to do just that.
I've said this before, about over 20 years ago, I was in London actually at Blake's Hotel, sitting on the phone with Richard Harris, and Richard gave me some really good advice he said, Mickey, man, he said, listen, you can't beat them. There's too many of them, and they got too much money, and he says, you just got to pull back and And I got off the phone with Richard, and I thought, nah, I'm going to do it my way. And, you know, and I made a big mistake because Richard had been there before me, and I really was an asshole not to take Richard sound, good advice that he gave.
What have you learned about yourself, Mickey, in this? It sounds a fascinating journey.
Before we go to the next question, I have to say Piers Morgan, I just love him. I know a lot of people either adore him and the other half don't, but he is such a straight to the point, direct questions. I always love that he's not afraid. He's unafraid to be completely have an opinion that might be in disagreement with the rest of the population. Mickey Rourke is talking about the fact that no matter how much you respect somebody, and that person is giving you the right advice in life, you still have to find out for yourself from your own mistakes. You have to go and do those experiences. You have to do it your own way, as so many of us can identify with when he says that. The brilliance of great actors is that you don't have to be an actor. You don't have to be an acting coach. You don't even have to be in the same or near the entertainment business. You can learn so much, and you can take so much. You can take so many teachings from what they say in interviews and from how they portray characters to relate to your life, because actors' manual with which they train is the same manual that we would be so lucky to have if anybody ever thought to write it. But there's no such thing. So the closest manual is the training of the actor that comes to giving you all of the tools, practice them, use them to have a better chance at living a better life. He goes, I should have taken the advice. I didn't take it. I wanted to do it my way. Who doesn't relate to that?
You've been on here. What have you learned most about yourself?
Well, you know, the biggest thing was I came from a very shameful upbringing, and it was very violent, and it was very physical abuse and mental. And when I left home at like 14 or 15, I didn't realize, I was so happy that the physical pain was over, because that was horrifying. That went on for nearly 10 years, but I didn't realize that it was going to fuck me up in my head, my way of thinking, my way of dealing with people, because you know, you have a choice when you're abused physically. At the time, I wasn't thinking about it mentally. There comes a time, and it happened when I was about 14. And when you're living in shame, there's nothing worse than that. So you got two choices. You either live in shame and you become like a broken soul, a broken person, or you get hard. And I chose to get hard. Not by choice, just by survival. And
I'm going to stop again, because I just think that this moment of him revealing the fact that his childhood was not a perfect one. When I hear people say, some actors that I work with, when I ask them about their childhood, because as actors, you have to go into everything from your life. You have to look at not only the joyful things and the joyful moments, but also the sad, the violent, all of it that you can imagine that's on the spectrum of our humanity has to be analyzed and has to be questioned. So you can bring those pains through the character that you're portraying, and you can illuminate them and get them out to light, so they won't be feeling so dark inside of you. For those people out there who seem to think that the more you don't think about horrible things that happen to you, the more you don't talk about it, the more that you just hide them, press them down somewhere inside of you, they're just going to go away. They're not going to go away. They're going to be buried alive. I heard somebody say that. They're going to be buried alive. They're still going to be eating away at you. And as the time goes, they're going to become worse and worse and worse. For someone to be able to reveal that he's had a childhood that wasn't all perfect, it was physically violent. I'm so sorry to hear that. I didn't know. But for him to have the courage to reveal it, that already tells you why he's been able to do the characters that he's done with such humane understanding of them. Violence, who doesn't relate to, it doesn't have to be physical violence. Who doesn't relate to being bullied? Who doesn't relate to being verbally abused? Who doesn't relate to somebody else making fun of them when they were children? I certainly relate to so many of the things that he's talking about. When I hear people say, no, my childhood, I have nothing. I don't think I can go there because I'm not going to have anything to extract from it if I need to portray pain for my character. Well, think again. It doesn't mean that you don't have anything. It means that you're not ready to go there. And it's okay to not be ready to go there. You might want to go there with a therapist. You might want to go there with somebody in the profession who can help you before you can get back to acting. You should not do acting at a great level. You can do superficial acting, as we see all over the place that's being done, superficial acting, where nothing is asked of you. There's no giving at all. That doesn't hurt anybody. But if you want to do great acting, the acting that he's talking about, then you have to heal yourself with a professional first, and then you can get back to acting. You cannot consider acting to be the healer. The craft of acting, the art of experiencing, which is the craft of acting, is a healing process, but it does not substitute for a professional who can help you as a therapist in healing. I want to make that very clear because people seem to confuse it. Sometimes people say, oh my God, I'm so glad that I found this class. I feel so much better about my issues. And I always say, I'm not a professional psychiatrist. I'm not a professional therapist. I'm an acting coach. You need to separate the professionals and you have to go do sessions with them to get your instrument to be ready and better, because you don't want to damage it. If you're not ready to do acting at his grade level, then you really need to be talking to someone. You really need to be starting the process of healing with a professional. But again, courage. Who's going to reveal? Courage on his part to reveal that. Courage. It takes courage, because that shame that he's talking about, we all feel. We've all had moments of shame. How many of us are ready to reveal them? Well, as actors, you must. That's your responsibility. Because if you're not going to, the characters that you are giving the opportunity to portray and are lucky to portray, these human beings. By the way, Strindberg, the famous writer who's very known for the play Miss Julie, he did not even want to call the characters in his plays characters because he was afraid that people were going to misunderstand them to be one dimension, a facade of a human being. He called his characters souls, because the characters are human beings. When you are portraying them live on stage, or you're portraying them on the big screen, on the small screen, you are giving those characters breath. So maybe the audience is watching, could learn something, could get something, could identify with and recognize when leaving the movie theater or the stage theater. When they go home as audience members, they can breathe a little bit more relief, recognizing themselves to be as humans as those characters are. Not perfect, quite the opposite, with flaws, with imperfections, with moments that they have to work through. But it gives the audiences hope that if they can do it, so can we as the audience.
Passed, and I messed everything up that I tried to accomplish. You know, I take the blame for it, because by me getting hard with everything and everybody alienated me from, I became, as my therapist told me, a scary person to deal with. and I didn't know how to turn the off switch off.
And have you learned, Mickey, have you learned how to turn that off?
What did he just say? Speaking with his therapist, just because he's a great actor and he knows how to analyze characters and he understands psychology turned into behavior is Ilyas Kazan definition of acting. So he's trained to do that as an actor. He's working with a therapist. He just said it.
And have you learned, Mickey, have you learned how to turn that off now?
Great
I've
question.
learned- well, it's interesting. I went to therapy for 23 years, and I didn't ever think I would. But the therapist said to me one day, he said, after about 3 or 4 years out of the 23 I went, he said, you have absolutely no regard for repercussions or accountability.
Oh,
He says, that's just not in your DNA. And I realized with dealing with people who deal from an authoritarian place, producers, who think that they can treat you a certain way because they're the ones with the money and the power, they finally ran into a cat that didn't give a fuck about their money and power.
I've got to watch your language, Mickey. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I have to apologize when you do that, but I understand why you feel this way.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm just saying, you know, people who have money and power, they really feel that they have this thing where they can treat you a certain way. But I made a decision a long time ago when I was 14 that I got to be a man. And I had to be a man at 14. And later on, as the years went by, even with the success and the destruction of my career, it was always important for me, because of where I came from, to be a man first and then actor second.
how amazing is it that he's actually calling out those producers during his career to have the power to knowingly put someone down because they know they're giving you the job as the actor. He's calling them out. He's calling them out. Who cannot understand what that means? Because it's not just in acting that those things are happening. We're watching now what's happening on television with all the reveals of powerful men in different professions who have been abusive towards people in lower positions than them. They've been abusive for years. People enable them to be abusive, verbally, sexually, in all sorts of ways. And you're afraid to do anything about it when you have a position that you know you can get fired from in any kind of field. You're not going to do anything because you're going to be afraid. You're going to be afraid that nobody's going to believe what you have to say because you're a nobody in comparison to them, because that's how they make you feel. That's why I keep talking about the producers who are in these positions of hiring actors should give new blood, should give new actors a chance, because they might be surprised by what the new actors would bring, and the money will come. They would probably make more money than they think they would by staying with the same actors and hiring the same actors all over again, because they want to be safe. So they cast the same people because they had proven to have made the money in the previous films. They're so afraid of taking a risk. Actors take risks all the time, the great ones. I find this interview to be so beautiful, and to hear the commentaries by other people. You'll see the moments that I get to, which I talked about, Tom Cruise and Amber Heard. The reason why he's saying the things that he's saying about those two people is because that's his honest truth in his opinion. And he's not even being personally attacking them. He's talking from his understanding of what he sees when he sees Tom Cruise and when he sees Amber Heard. Let the man speak freely. Just because he's not being polite. Everybody wants politeness all over the world. Polite. Let's be polite. As actors, you can't be polite. You have to let politeness a little bit to the side when you embrace acting. I'm not saying that you have to be mean. I'm not saying that you have to be damaging to another person or to yourself, but politeness doesn't help anybody. You're not helping your partner on stage or in front of the camera by giving the partner what they're expecting, because there's not going to be any surprise happening between the two of you. It's going to be just a boring scene. There's no human involvement in that. Life is not planned. We might plan it, but there are moments that happen which we have to deal with. The same way the actors have to do the same thing. They know what the script is. They have the safe environment, but then they have to let go and find the spontaneity and the moment-to-moment surprising work. That's another lesson for life. Because no matter how much you want to plan life and you want to consider yourself, if only I'm going to be polite and I'm going to plan it this way, everything is going to be fine. It's not. I'm sorry to disappoint you. There are things that are being thrown at you. There are punches, literally, and as a symbol. Teachings from actors. If only more people would freaking know.
I interviewed just before The Wrestler came out, and it was an incredibly powerful interview because you've been in the wilderness for so long then. And then suddenly The Wrestler came along and propelled you back to the top again. What was that moment like for you?
But I'm back in the wilderness after The Wrestler.
But you're not really, though, are you? I don't think you are.
Not really, because what I learned to do was I wasn't going to let anyone put me on the shelf.
Yeah.
All right. Because I've got enough ability, and I've got more ability than most actors that are walking around. And if I could just behave myself, there's a lot of young up and coming directors that aren't afraid of how I used to be perceived.
When you see, Mickey, when you see someone like Tom Cruise, grossing $1 billion with Top Gun Maverick, the sequel, 35 years or so after the first one, what do you think of that?
That doesn't mean shit to me. The guy's been doing the same effing part for 35 years. I got no respect for that.
Really?
I don't give it. No, really, brother. I don't care about money and power. I care about when I watched Al Pacino work and Chris Walken and De Niro's early work and Richard Harris's work and Ray Winstone's work. That's the kind of actor I want to be, like Monty Cliff and Brando back in the day, and a lot of guys that just tried to stretch as actors and be the.
You don't think Tom Cruise is a good actor?
I think he's irrelevant in my world.
Fascinating.
Did he catch you by surprise a little bit, Piers Morgan, when he said that? I'm not sure how much of the interview was prepared before, but I would have said the same thing. This is the moment that everybody's been blasting all over. How could Mickey Rourke have said such things about Tom Cruise? Mickey Rourke comes from the actor studios, select few actors to be members. The one actor studio were Lee Strasberg, Elia Kazan, and I think I heard somewhere or I read somewhere that when Mickey Rourke auditioned for the actor studio back in the day, it was Elia Kazan who said that it was the best audition that he's ever seen. It was either Elia Kazan or Lee Strasberg, but I think it was Elia Kazan who said that it was the best audition that he's seen of all the people that he's seen auditioning for the actor studio. My God. And then he's coming from that world of the actors understanding the work in such a way that majority of the people are not getting to this day. It doesn't matter that there's a celebration of the actor studio of 75 years this year. There's so many imbeciles on television who are talking as experts on acting, and they have no freaking idea what they're talking about. When Mickey Rourke is talking about Marlon Brando in the early days as an example of what he wants out of himself, and that's what he's been training and stretching himself for as an actor. All of these amazing people who are method actors, who are artists. Tom Cruise is a movie star. He might have had a couple of movies in the beginning of his career, in my opinion, before he got into Scientology. Scientology is stopping him from the later part of his career to reveal emotions. From my understanding, from a couple of readings and watching that show that they have on about it, all of the things that acting is not about. So yes, Tom Cruise in his youth, in his young career, before he got so involved into Scientology and he grew in the ranks and he became almost at the top of the ranks of Scientology, was a good actor, but now he's not. There's nothing wrong that Mickey Rourke said by speaking his opinion, and he even gave the reason why in his world Tom Cruise is irrelevant. He gave the comparison, he named the other actors who are artists, members of the actor studio, if not all, some. He's a member of the actor studio. He understands the work, the method work that requires of you to show emotions that you might not feel comfortable to show, but the character might need for you to go there. Well, Tom Cruise doesn't go anywhere. He goes and he jumps and he flies and he's a great movie star and he's an action figure and his movies are making millions. And now I heard the first time billion with this new Maverick movie. Good for him. But don't blame Mickey Rourke for saying something that's so visible, for saying something that's so truthful. The reason why you're making comments about how dare he says that, or how can Mickey Rourke go as far as to call Tom Cruise irrelevant, he's making the comparison between Marlon Brando and Tom Cruise. He's making the comparison from Al Pacino in his early years or Robert De Niro in his early years. He's already giving you more of a specific answer to why he's saying that Tom Cruise does not belong. He doesn't make part of that group. Mickey Rourke is one of the group. That's the work of the actor that he believes in. He's got the right to say it. So why are you coming after him? Because you don't understand acting. Get informed about acting. Get informed about the work of the actor. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes than what you understand acting to be. It's not pretend, it's reveal of who you are and tapping into everything that you are, that you discover for yourself for the first time. That's what he's referring to. So let him have his opinion.
Welcome back. I'm with Mickey Rourke. Mickey, I want to ask you about cancel culture. What do you make of this weird phenomenon that we now all have to operate under?
About what?
Cancel culture.
About what?
I don't have any opinion on all that.
I mean, what do you think when you see people being cancelled for having an opinion?
Oh my God, this is so precious. This is so precious. This is so being in the moment. So what do you think Mickey Piers Morgan says about cancel culture? And he goes, about what? So he's just responding to what spontaneously he feels in the moment, rather than anybody else who would have been there, who's not a trained actor, would have tried to come up with a smart answer, even if they don't have an opinion on what the question was. Okay, this is what I think. I think this. You will come up with so many smart answers because we want to portray ourselves as being smart. We want to portray ourselves with intelligence so people like us. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, because we all have that. It never goes away. We just want to be loved. In the end, we want to be appreciated. We want to belong. We want to feel that we are worthy. And we need that confirmation from other people. But he just said, what? Censored culture? I don't know. Because he's done so much. He's been through so much. He's at a point in his life where he understands that trying to pretend to be smart doesn't really mean anything. It's irrelevant.
There's nothing new.
Do you think he's right?
I would have to be given a specific case.
Well, I'll give you one. So Macy Gray, the singer, came on my show last week and said what her definition of a woman was. And she got so much abuse for her honest opinion that she had to go on the Today Show in America and effectively back down on her opinion, which I thought was ridiculous. There's an example of the kind of mob mentality.
I don't think anybody should have to apologize for what their personal opinion is on any matter, unless their personal opinion is very narrow-minded and it's going to hurt other people.
Oh my God, did you guys hear what he just said? So you do not have to apologize. How many times don't we say in everyday life, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Oh, hi, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Because we've been so conditioned to say I'm sorry for nothing we have done wrong. Then now this singer that Piers Morgan is talking about, the fact that somebody expresses an opinion of what she thinks the definition of a woman is, and then because of people not liking her answer, she has to go apologize. Because if you don't apologize, if you don't get back to belong and to be in the general group accepted, I feel you can go on with your career. You won't be given the chances by the producers that Mickey Rourke was just talking about. They want to work with the people that are going to bow down and be polite and apologize for everything, politeness, political correctness. And the most important thing that he said at the end, the opinion of everyone should be respected if it's not narrow-minded and if it's not going to be unkind to others. So he's this kind man that talks about how he had to learn to navigate how to be kind to himself. And people are still in the news, TV, think about the only moment where he's calling Tom Cruise irrelevant, because that's all they can hear from the interview. And they want to go into that moment and even make fools of themselves by doing it, because it only shows how much they don't understand about his response. I heard somebody on YouTube, I don't understand why Mickey Rourke would say that. I don't know why Mickey Rourke would say that. I love Mickey Rourke, but I also love Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is a great actor. Well, that's a general understanding that you have. That doesn't mean that you understand acting the same way that he does. Mickey Rourke understands acting at a level that he is just part of a few in the world to understand it. Why would he say that about Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise is a great actor. That's a general comment for you to make. He's being so much more specific when he talks about Tom Cruise. Address that. Address that he's making the reference to the work of people without saying the actor studio, but with people who have been the people to change acting forever. That's what he's referring to. He's making the difference between those people who have changed the art of acting, like Marlon Brando. Hey, Stella, that's where my name comes from for the podcast. Hey, Stella, changed. Elia Kazan, the same director that has been known to have said about Mickey Rourke that it was the best audition that he's ever seen by anyone. And he got into the actor studio on his first try, which is a huge thing. I also got into the actor studio on my first try. I have to say that. Most people, even famous people, they've tried for like years, because you can only try once a year. So they've tried for years. That's the comparison. He makes the comparison between Tom Cruise being from a different group that he, Mickey Rourke, doesn't care about. He doesn't care about money. He doesn't care about that. He cares about the artist's work. He cares about the artist going on the process of understanding the instrument so they can keep bringing new stuff to the characters instead of the same character that Tom Cruise has been playing all his life. This one I'm referring to the new film. That's what he's saying. He's saying nothing unkind about Tom Cruise. Nothing. That's why he talks here about the opinion of people being respected if it's not unkind. So he's always referring to kindness as an important element in what he believes in.
You said some interesting stuff about Vladimir Putin after you met him in 2014. You wore a T-shirt with his picture on it.
Yeah, that was 2014. Okay?
No, that's what I said. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you whether you're.
I just want to make that clear. Okay.
Yeah.
I went over there in 2014, and it was some sort of event where some entertainers from the States came over, and he was dancing with Sharon Stone, and he actually was singing a song on a piano. And then he invited me specifically to go to his hometown in St. Petersburg to visit a home that took care of little tiny children that had kind of incurable cancer. And that was really heartbreaking to go to. And I was talking to all these little kids, and I remember I gave a rosary of mine to one of the little girls. And I looked over at Vladimir, and I could see somebody that was genuinely concerned about where we were, and someone who was empathetic, and he was there for a sincere reason.
But how do you square that, Mickey, with the guy we see now?
Okay, 2014, the event happened. I didn't know about this. I now seem to remember some of the clips that I've seen with all these, as he said, Sharon Stone, movie people, movie stars that were there. And I remember Putin was singing. I think those are some images that are coming back. This is the same thing as so many people have done in their past. There are things that you do as a human being that you are ashamed of, but at the time that you're doing it, you don't understand the full detail, dark, bad stuff that's in that particular moment. You don't. The same way that Harvey Weinstein was able to be the head of Miramax and so many people were bowing to him, the same way that so many people are bowing to Trump, no matter of any of the wrongdoing that he's done, the same way that many of us have done shameful things that he already spoke about. That was something that he did with other people when Putin was looked at as the bad, horrible man, but we need to keep on the side of being a friend because it's better to have your enemy close, whatever the saying is, I don't know. It was the time where Putin was being invited to do events in America. Are people going to hold him responsible for something from his past that so many other people did that now I'm sure he's ashamed of? In one of those moments that he talks, that there was a lot of shame that he carries. He didn't know any better. How many of us have not done things that we would do anything to be able to change because they were hurtful to other people? We did it intentionally or unintentionally, deliberately or not, but we are imperfect. We do bad things. We look at people and we consider them to be one thing, and then we find out that they're completely the opposite. He wasn't the only person to go to that. That's all I'm trying to say. Monstrous Putin that now is killing people in Ukraine for no freaking reason, and nobody's stopping him. Why not stop? Why not do something now? Having understanding of who he is that you didn't know at that time. I'm saying about politicians, and stop the man. How is it possible that in 2022, there's a monster that's killing a population of one of the biggest countries in Europe, and there's nobody doing anything about it?
Illegally invading Ukraine and bombing little children to pieces every single day.
That's the thing that blows my mind, because it's like two brother countries, and it's like, I don't understand what he wants. And it's like, not only combatants are getting killed, but old people are getting killed, young people are getting killed, schools are getting targeted, hospitals are getting targeted, and all that shit's not right. I saw a guy, an image of a man who was looking in a hole, in a ditch, and he was looking for and I put myself in his position. He was looking for his brother. And that kind of struck home with me and bothered me a lot, and made me think he's doing really terrible, bad things. And I wish some kind of little bell would ring in his head or his heart, and he'd wake up and just stop all this shit. And then I saw a picture of a man, an old man, laying shot on a bicycle, and an old woman shot on a bicycle. But the image that bothered me the most was I saw this old man holding a little gray kitten. And the old man survived his house being bombed. And he lost 5 family members. And the only thing he had kind of hard for me to talk about it. The only thing he had was this little gray kitty. And I looked at that image, that fucking image, sorry. And I said, how can I have anything to worry about? Losing a movie, somebody saying bad shit about me, or I'm having a bad day. And I'm looking at this old guy holding a little kitty that crawled out from the rubble. And that's all he had. And he lost 5 family members. And ever since that day,
horrendous.
Ever since that day, I've said prayers for that man and for the 2 old people I saw on the street. And
Mickey, I'm gonna have to end the interview. But what I want to do, if it's okay with you, I want to carry it on.
all I want to say,
I'm going to carry it on after we'll carry on, Mickey, after we come off air, and I'll record it for later in the week. Okay.
This is incredible. The reason why this is incredible is because when he was recalling the images that we all have seen on television from those civilians being killed in Ukraine, it's so hurtful. Sometimes you can't even watch. Imagine experiencing that. The way he was recalling those images, he was automatically, because he's so trained into having such an open instrument, an open heart to understanding and putting himself in the shoes of those people, like he said, emotions came up because he was using the visual, he was using the sight, details of what he had seen with 3 different civilians whose lives were completely turned upside down, dead, some of them, others having lost 5 members of the family with a little kitten. But the way that he was affected by it in the moment, he wasn't planning on having let me cry now. I'm going to cry now because this is the segment with Piers Morgan where I cry. No, his heart is so open. His instrument is so open to understanding other people because he's portraying other people. He's been trained to have an open heart, an open soul, going back to what Strindberg was calling his character souls. And then what he did that great actors do, but mediocre actors don't. When your emotion is starting to come up and to become on the surface, to become visible to the people, great actors try to hide it. They try to keep it down because that's what we do in real life. When we have grief, when we have sorrow, the emotion comes up due to the response of our senses to that which happened that makes us sad, and we cry and we stop. We try to stop ourselves. We try to maintain our strength in going on. We don't let the tears come down and stream down your face, which is what bad actors do. Do you see me crying? I'm crying as an actor. Do you see tears? Because I have tears that are actually being produced in my eyes. Anybody can do that. If you keep your eyes open long enough, tears are going to start streaming down your face. But there's no feelings that anybody feels watching that. And they don't even try to cover. They come closer to the camera so they can be seen. Can you see I'm crying? That's where the ego of the actor takes place. And you just remain an actor. You never turn into a great artist. You're just a superficial actor. Then the next response was, because he was so frustrated about what's happening to the Ukrainian people. And when he mentions the fact that he hopes for Putin, for the crazy man, to have a change of heart, he was so upset without even saying it, that after he covered his eyes to cover the emotions, his emotion was still there. Just because he stopped the emotion from being visible to the audience, to the public, it didn't mean that he stopped inside of himself. He took the plastic bottle and he threw it out of frustration, because that's spontaneous in the moment reaction of a human being that you then analyze, you become aware of it, you put it somewhere in your repertoire, wherever you keep your experiences from everyday life. And then you remind yourself, when you go to play a character, I'm not going to judge this character that he might or might not throw a bottle, because I wasn't expecting of myself to throw a bottle when speaking of what's happening in Ukraine. So when actors say, oh, my character is a doctor, doctors don't cry, doctors don't get frustrated because they have to keep their emotions covered. Yeah, but we also have to see the glimpses of the doctor when he reveals his humanity, because he's still a human before his profession, who might throw a bottle, a plastic bottle, because he's frustrated that he couldn't save a patient or something, if that was the scenario. And again, he didn't throw a glass bottle, because that would have been unkind. That would have been damaging to maybe somebody on set. You're emotionally involved to what you're talking about because it comes up in you, but you still have to have the observant part of you active to make sure that you don't pick up a glass and throw it and hurt somebody in the process of it. That's spontaneity. Do it, let it surprise you, but make sure that you're still aware of what you're doing so as not to hurt someone in the process. Brilliant. And don't judge your characters.
Horrendous.
Ever since that day,
There's the
I've
moment.
said prayers for that man and for the two old people I saw on the street. And
Mickey, I'm gonna have to end the interview. But what I want to do, if it's okay with you, I want to carry it on.
all I want to say,
all I
want to say,
I'm going to carry it on after we'll carry on, Mickey, after we come off air, and I'll record it for later in the week. Okay.
All right.
That was another lesson learned for actors out there and for people. Just because the other character is speaking, it doesn't mean that you have to wait for the other character to finish the lines. You can cut in the middle of the lines of the other actors. Don't be polite. Surprise the other actor, because by you cutting his line and surprising the other actor, he's going to have to be living truthfully in the moment. He's not going to be able to put on a scene that he's doing. And the surprise is going to have to make him think real time, real thoughts, not just an actor, oh, I have to finish my line. There's so much that we can benefit from watching actors at work or watching actors doing interviews. I want to do interviews with actors. I want to be able to explain all this in a way that I've never seen it explained anywhere publicly. And I know I sound, no, you know what, I say that. Every time I say something that I believe in, if I catch myself saying, oh, I have to say that it sounds arrogant, as if I'm apologizing. Doing what I talked about earlier, I'm apologizing beforehand so you don't consider me to be arrogant. No, it's not arrogant. I'm talking about something that I know. I'm talking about something that I have many years in. Bring these detailed teachings from actors that we can all learn from. So we're going to continue with the rest of the interview. So here we go.
Mickey Rourke, he was moved to tears discussing the war in Ukraine. And when last night's show ended rather abruptly, I said that we would keep the conversation going and we would then show the viewers later what we said to each other. And it turned out to be a remarkable exchange. I mean, Mickey, when you talk so powerfully about Ukraine and what's happened to the people there, you must think back to your experience of meeting Putin and question whether he really did have the ability to be empathetic.
I saw it with my people don't want to hear it. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw it the way he treated me. Okay, but being something changed, and all this mayhem and this death and this killing, I didn't see that when I was at the children's home with the little kids that all had cancer, and he was so genuine and empathetic, and I saw someone who really cared. Now, people might be mad at me for saying something like that, but I saw him in 214. Right now, what's going on right now, I don't believe in that war. I think it's terrible. It's my best friend in the world, who I love more than anybody, is from Ukraine. He just got his family out of Mykolaiv, and every day when Dima, who's Ukrainian, comes to work with me, the first thing I say to him is, how's your mother? How's your family? Because when Dima knocks on the door to come to work, what's going through my mind before he opens the door is he's going to tell me something not good.
What is your message for Putin, if you had a chance to give it?
The opening of Piers Morgan for the second part, which is this one, he remarked the emotions that Mickey Rourke was feeling when he was describing what's happening to the people of Ukraine for no reason. Goes back to explain that when he knew the monster Putin, he didn't see the same man that would be capable of doing what he's doing right now. The level of the power and the crazy and the destruction that Putin has. But for him to have stayed in power for so long, this is what happens to crazy people who are given that power. Why was he allowed to stay in power? It's not just him. It's everybody that's enabling him. It's the people who are making the money off of the weapons when the wars are being started. Yes, he has the blame. He has the blood on his hands. But there's so many other people that could have stood up to him, but they're not. They're not. So to blame Mickey Rourke for the fact that he was amongst other celebrities invited in 2014, how was he supposed to know that this was going to transpire and he was going to turn into the destructor that he is, into the killer that he is with the Ukrainian people? Of course, he's moved to tears because there's part of him that's probably feeling guilty. But at the same time, he couldn't have known. Bring Sharon Stone also that. Find all the people that shook hands with Putin over the years, all the politicians, the American president, and ask them the same questions. Why did you shake hands with him? It's happening right now with politicians. They're having to make friends with the devil because that's how this unfair life goes. And of course, he's moved, Piers Morgan, because he's a sensitive human being. To be able to portray with such dignity his roles that he played in, especially the latest one that he was given credit for so much, the wrestler, of course, he has to be a sensitive human being. If you're not understanding of what responsibility means as an actor to the people watching, then you might as well do something else. I keep saying that.
What is your message for Putin, if you had a chance to give it to him?
You're not going to live forever. Look at Peter the Great, Napoleon, what happened to them, trying to get more and more and more. And just, you've got your power, your money, just live your life and, let these people in Ukraine be independent, and democratic society they want to live in, and just stop today. Stop now, not tomorrow. Just stop right now.
Mickey, you recently posted a statue of Liberty crying. It was an image of Statue of Liberty crying in tears. And you captioned it with a lot of truth. What did you mean by that?
Well, because they call it the United States of America, but it's now the divided States of America. And there's one big reason for that, but I'm not going to go into it because I don't need another visit from the Secret Service.
When did you have one before?
Oh, about 6 months ago.
Why?
Take a wild guess.
Was it because of something you said about President Trump?
Yeah.
What did you say about him?
Just the truth.
Which is what?
Read my mind.
And the Secret Service actually came to see you?
Oh, yeah.
And what do they say?
A lot. And that's just way over my head. So I got nothing to say anymore about nothing.
Are you sad?
They're still trying to.
Are you
they're
sad?
still trying to They're still trying to figure out what happened to Kennedy's brain. All right.
Are you sad, Mickey, about what's happening to America?
No, because I've never felt comfortable in this country to begin with. I've always enjoyed the UK. I've always enjoyed France. I've always enjoyed Italy. I've always enjoyed Russia. I haven't been to the Ukraine. I can't go right now, but I've never really felt comfortable in my own country, really. I've always liked other countries better.
What do you feel
never
about
hear Italy?
What do you feel
You
about
never hear Italy?
I think I'm right in saying, Mickey, that Joe Biden was the first time you'd voted for any president. What do you think of how he's doing?
He's doing all he can do with the mess that he's got on his hands.
Is he too old for the job, do you think?
I don't think it has anything to do with his age. I think it's going to take after the last thing, it's going to take another 30 years for this country to straighten itself out. If it ever can again.
Wow, I'm quiet.
It's divided. You can feel it. I've lost friends over it.
I haven't said anything for the last couple of minutes because that really surprised me. For him to be given a visit by the security in America because of something that he might have said about Trump, that is a reminder of communist Romania. That is a reminder of, oh my God, this is crazy what's happening in this country. My entire family, my dad, my mom, my dad, because he was the one that left Romania when it was communist regime, to come to a free country and now to see what's happening with the division between people and parties. Wow. To pose that crying Statue of Liberty, that was so powerful. That's what I mean about him being an artist and understanding the truth of what's happening. Did you see the exchange back and forth? There's so much power. That scene, that dialogue between the two of them. Sometimes the less you say, maintaining the energy, which is contained inside of you without saying the line, is so much more powerful. He's just such a transparent, he's got such a transparent heart. I mean, even looking at him right now, I know I don't care about his appearances. I don't care. He's a boxer. He was a boxer. He needed to do reconstructive facial surgeries, whatever he had done. I don't care. People, when it comes to their physical appearance, they have to do what they have to do to make themselves feel better. To me, his soul and his heart is so powerful. There's so much that I can feel from him with every word, every pause, or every time he doesn't want to say something. Doesn't want to go into it. He doesn't want to go into politics because it's above his head to not say things in this country. This is America. I mean, this is not ex-communist. I mean, communist Romania. Yeah.
It's divided. You can feel it. I've lost friends over it. But I'm not going to be outspoken about it anymore. I don't need the FBI to call me up and tell me that some Trump fanaticals got me on a hit list and all that. Oh, you know what? I'm moving to Texas. My place is going to be fortified like nobody's business. And if somebody wants to come through my gates, it's going to be the last 2 steps they ever make.
Mickey, I wanted to talk to you also about what happened to your friend Johnny Depp. What did you think of that case and the fact that in the end he won it?
Well, you know, I know.
I cannot believe that you cannot say things in this country because you have to worry about being on a list, especially if you're someone that has a name like he does. When speaking the truth of your belief, as artists, they are actors, yes, but they are activists. Actors can bring people together. Actors are the ones to remind us all that we are more the same at the base of our humanity, people. Open your minds and be kind. If you can only take that from what he's been saying the whole interview, kindness, because of something that he said that's not in line with your opinion. Is this crazy happening here? Yes, it is. For those people who say, no, we're going to overcome this, it's about Joe Biden not doing his job. I don't think that he's not doing his job. He's doing the best that he can. But I don't think that he has around him an administration that's actually responding to what is happening in the divided states of America, like he says. They're taking it a little bit lighter than they should. I think Mickey Rourke, again, by him speaking boldly how he feels, saying that it's going to take 30 years to get the country back to the United States of America. Scary. Okay.
Mickey, I wanted to talk to you also about what happened to your friend Johnny Depp. What did you think of that case and the fact that in the end he won it?
Well, you know, I know Johnny for many years, but I don't really know him intimately. All I could say is I was in a situation one time where I got blamed for something that I didn't do. It cost me movie jobs for several years, and it caused me a bad reputation. And finally, the truth came out. But the truth came out after I lost movies and I lost jobs. And so I felt bad for somebody that is trying to get chopped down by some gold digger, you know?
You think that's what she was?
Absolutely.
You have a Russian model girlfriend, I believe. Is that going well?
No. That was several years ago.
Are you single now?
I've been single for 7 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you like it that way?
At the first 4 years, it was really lonely. But I realized that I couldn't keep going out with women that were gonna, if I ever have a relationship ever again, I hope maybe somebody comes into my life that I can trust.
How many times?
Otherwise,
how many times have you been, would you say, properly in love in your life?
once.
Once.
Oh
Who
my
with?
God, that makes me sad.
You know who with.
Well, you tell me.
You tell me.
I'll guess it was Carrie.
Yes, it was.
She was the love of your life.
That was 23 years ago. We haven't seen each other or spoke.
If you did see her, what would you say, Mickey?
Oh my God, this is
Nothing.
so emotional. This is so personal.
Do you have any regrets about the way it all ended?
I've got a lot of regrets about a lot of things, you know, so that contradicts that Frank Sinatra song. Yeah, I did it my way, but he says too few to mention. I got too many to remember.
He's been without a relationship for 7 years, and the love of his life was Carrie. I think she was the one that he did a movie with, Wild Orchid. If I'm not mistaken, I think she went on to say that he was abusive towards her. I'm not sure about this. But this comes in the same segment where he's being asked, what does he believe about Amber Heard in the case with Johnny Depp? And he just simply says that she's a gold digger. That's it. She's a fucking gold digger. And he was beeped out because he's not supposed to swear. Somebody who's not afraid of being direct. I mean, if he would be afraid of speaking his mind after all that he's gone through in his life, as a person, as an actor, losing movies, losing jobs because of people not receiving him because he did not want to be yes. If not, then they won't go with somebody who might be a rebel in a way that, again, without damage to other people, but surprising to what he or she might bring. They just want to stay within the same freaking comfort zone. Keep their jobs. They're afraid of losing their jobs. Don't lose my job. Don't lose my job. I know this. Who doesn't know that? Don't you guys relate to that? I know this from my position as a teacher. There's always somebody who's higher than you, and you're giving all that you've got in your job, and you're feeling that there's something that you can bring to those students. And then all of a sudden, the person who's in charge of the whole thing puts you to the side. The more that you give and the more that you are being appreciated for your work, those people in powerful positions are afraid. You got to keep within what we see you to be. You can't throw a plastic bottle at the end of the segment because you're frustrated. You can cry, they might say, but at the same time, it doesn't go that you throw a bottle because they don't understand moment to moment living artistry.
Uncensored next, Mickey opens up on his close friendship with Tupac, 25 years since the rapper's shocking death.
We had a lot of stuff in common. And we loved each other, you know, deeply. I think about him all the time.
Welcome back now to the final part of this explosive interview, making headlines across the planet. Hollywood's comeback king, Mickey Rourke, very much uncensored. What do you make of the way Tyson Fury handles himself, the world heavyweight champ?
I love Tyson Fury. He has so much ability, it's not even funny.
I don't even know.
Do you think he'll fight again? He says he's given up.
Every fighter says they've given up, and they all come back.
How do you rate him in the pantheon of heavyweight champs?
Excuse me?
How do you rate Tyson in the list of the greatest ever?
One of the very best ever because of his size, but he's also a very fluid fighter. He uses feints. He uses his jab. He's very intelligent. He's got a very extremely high boxing IQ, and it's in his blood. And he knows how to pace himself. Plus, he takes one hell of a punch and gets back up.
When you were boxing, Mickey, obviously you got to know a lot of boxers. You got to know the art of boxing. You were a very good boxer yourself. Who is the boxer in history of any weight you would have least wanted to get in the ring with at their peak?
Well, there's two different things there. There's like a great fighter like Lennox Lewis that is eventually going to catch you because of his height, his reach, his boxing IQ. And then there's the first 4 or 5 rounds with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
You know. One fighter I admire so much is from your country was Henry Cooper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he could have beaten Ali, couldn't he? He had a chance.
Well, he actually did. If the gloves didn't get cut, the time would have ran out.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you still box, Mickey?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to have one last one.
Oh.
Mike Tyson is still fighting. Why don't you finally get in the ring with Tyson? Test your theory.
I don't mess around with anything over 220 pounds.
He's so funny.
No.
How is your feud with Robert De Niro going? Is that showing any sign of thawing?
There's no fuse. It's just a lot of people trying to stir up. You know, I have nothing. I have no feeling whatsoever on the subject.
Who is the greatest actor you've ever seen?
Aside from myself?
Aside from yourself.
Oh. I would say Marlon Brando, Monty Cliff, Richard Harris. Who? Charles Bronson.
He was great. He was great, actually. But you are a great actor, Mickey. I mean, you are one of the great actors. When you were on your absolute A game, you were up there with any of the greats, I think.
Well, I'm back on my A game.
You think you still are?
No, I know I am.
Good for you.
Are you considering any roles at the moment you think could show us?
Well, I just had a great experience with Roman Polanski. I'm going to go over to Paris to work with Jean Reno and Vincent Cassel, and so we've got some very interesting projects lined up. You know,
on Polanski, so, I mean, it's a very controversial figure, Polanski. He is technically a fugitive, child rapist.
Well, aside from, I don't know much about that because he never went to court, and there were a lot of people that told their side of the story where where he already had taken off. So,
Well, he did go
Nobody
to court. He did go to court, Mickey. He got convicted, and then he absconded.
well, I didn't know all about that. I only know about working with him as a director and it being one of my most pleasurable experiences acting ever. And if I could work with him one or two times, I would really be very fortunate and very happy.
So
I loved working with him.
It doesn't bother you that he fled justice?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, would you work for somebody like Harvey Weinstein, for example? Knowing what you know now?
I turned down a couple jobs from Harvey Weinstein. But I worked with him. I can't answer that.
What's the moment, Mickey, of your entire career that if I had the ability to let you relive it now, you would?
Some great questions, Piers Morgan, like really great questions. Okay, this is another moment that everybody's making a huge deal of. Roman Polanski, when he mentions the fact that he's worked with him, and when it comes to Roman Polanski's personal life, being accused of having sex with a minor, he's fled justice. He hasn't come back to the United States of America, from my understanding. But again, how is he, Mickey Rourke, who's an actor who cares about his work, how is he to know of the details and the specific happenings in the personal life of Polanski? How is he to know that? I mean, it's good that you're asking the questions, Piers Morgan. I think it's wonderful. But those people who are judgmental out there because of what he's saying and the way that he attributes Polanski with being a great director, he is a great director. Mickey Rourke is not talking about Polanski as a human. He's talking about him in his knowledge of him as a director. If he were to have said, no, I think he's a horrible director, that would have been a lie, because he's not a horrible director. Is he a horrible human? Yes. But listen to what people are saying. Don't make judgments because you don't know. Listen to what they're saying carefully. How many people knew about Harvey Weinstein because he's being mentioned? How many people knew and they continue to praise him and they continue to bow down to get their jobs? All of the movie stars in Hollywood worked with Harvey Weinstein. They should now quit their acting career because they didn't know any better. At those times, before the Me Too movement happened, before women decided to come and speak their stories of abuse and reveal those monsters, those were the times when you couldn't talk about these people in their positions because nobody was taking an interest. Different time, I'm not saying it was good, it was bad. You can hold them responsible the same way that justice was brought for those women who had the courage to speak against Harvey Weinstein. It was done now, but that doesn't mean that you can cancel all the actors who have worked with Miramax, which was the production company of Harvey Weinstein and his brother. I'm not excusing anybody. I'm just saying, don't make judgments of what Mickey's saying because he's talking about Polanski as a director.
What's the moment, Mickey, of your entire career that if I had the ability to let you relive it now, you would choose to relive?
My career, my life.
Your career. Well, I'll come to your life as well, but first your career.
I did a movie once that they paid me an enormous amount of money, and I was ashamed of doing it. I was ashamed that I sold out, and that's when I left acting and went back to fighting for 6 years. And so I really regretted doing this one particular movie because they paid me a lot of money, and I went and bought a big house and all that.
Which was the movie?
Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
And if you had your time again, you just wouldn't do it?
Absolutely. I loved working with Don Johnson. It was just I didn't like the material or the director was can I say? Yeah.
For him to admit to his taking the money for something that he was ashamed to work on, because then he went and bought a house, and then to admit to that as being a huge mistake. How many people do that? It's just so to be admired. I don't care what anybody says about him saying about other people. I'm just admiring him, and I'm so happy that Piers Morgan interviewed him. I think, Piers, you're great. I think you're doing an amazing job, and you do great interviews with people who are not necessarily in the groups that are being liked nowadays, but you still understand their quality as people, as actors, as artists, and you bring them on. Good for you. Let's go on.
What's next, Mickey? What do you want to achieve?
Yeah. I didn't like the material, or the director was, can I say? Yeah.
Of course you didn't like the director, and it's okay for actors to say they don't like the directors. Majority of directors, you know what their fear is? That they don't know how to work with actors, and they're so embarrassed to admit it. So then they come on set, and instead of admitting to the actors and saying, I don't understand your process as actors very well, I know how to do the whole setup, I know how to understand my technical team, my crew, but I don't know how to work with actors. That would already bring the relationship between him and the actors to be one where there's a collaborative process going on. But they don't want to reveal it because they're not like Mickey Rourke. They're afraid of revealing that they don't know, which is what the territory that you have to be in as an artist, in the I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious. I'm curious. And like Ted Lasso says, be curious, not judgmental. That's going to be my next episode. It's going to be Ted Lasso series, which I think is incredible. I'll tell you why I think it's incredible, as most of you do. It's getting Emmy nominations. It's getting everything that it deserves, when people out there, producers in Hollywood, did not even want to listen to the pitch when it was pitched by these fantastic co-creators. That's going to be my next one.
What's next, Mickey? What do you want to achieve? You're a guy, you said you're in your third act now. What do you want it to be?
Yeah, the beginning. First of all, I'm moving to Texas. I think that's going to be really good for me, to be in a place where I don't know. I could be around horses, which I love, and I can get myself very focused. I can keep myself in really good physical shape and mental shape. I've always kept my spirituality very private, but it's a very strong part of my life. What do I want to do now? And I started doing this about 2 years ago. Was when I get an opportunity to work, I want to do the best job in that moment that I could ever possibly give the director to do. In other words, I'm not going to walk through it. I'm going to give him everything I got, because from now on, every job I get, they're going to get all of me.
What does it take, Mickey, to be a truly great actor?
I think a lot of hard work and discipline. And to be able to be brave enough to make choices that are interesting choices that are either going to be really, really good or terrible.
And the other question I wanted to ask you, what was it like to party with Tupac?
Okay, before this segment, I just got woken up again. I was relaxing in the chair because the whole episode I was trying to look nice to show you guys my décolletage. And then I just kind of let go because it's been a long interview, a great one, but I let go, and then this just brought me back. That was absolutely fabulous. Can I listen to this one more time? When it comes to questions about acting, what do you want to do?
What does it take, Mickey, to be a truly great actor?
What do I want to do now? And I started doing this about 2 years ago. Was when I get an opportunity to work, I want to do the best job in that moment that I could ever possibly give the director to do. In other words, I'm not going to walk through it. I'm going to give him everything I got, because from now on, every job I get, they're going to get all of me.
That makes me very emotional because I understand exactly what he's saying. And this is what he means. This is where he's going back to the beginning of his interview when he was asked about Tom Cruise and why he doesn't consider Tom Cruise to be relevant. Because this is what he is knowing to do, that he hasn't maybe done throughout his career, and now he regrets it. But he's going to, from now on, give all that he's got, all of who he is, to the roles that he is playing now, because he understands the responsibility that an actor has for the audiences, to themselves, and to the characters they portray. It's the actors that keep societies reminded of our common stories. And of course, you have to give all of yourself when you do that.
I think a lot of hard work and discipline.
What does it take to be a great actor? A lot of great work, a lot of hard work and discipline. That's exactly right. Discipline, discipline, discipline. Ongoing training, physical, mental, spiritual, that he already mentioned before. Ongoing discipline, ongoing training, ongoing exploratory work, ongoing interest, curiosity, observation of all surroundings, of all other people, interest in others, empathy, curiosity, to have the courage to make the choices as you do in life. He doesn't say it, but I'm adding another great lesson. Make choices that are bold. In that way, be the wrong choices, but they can also turn out to be the greatest choices that you made.
And the other question I wanted to ask you, what was it like to party with Tupac?
We never saw the daylight. I love him. I miss him daily. You know, we were very similar. We had a lot of stuff in common, and we loved each other, you know, deeply. And I think about him all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, all the time. On a weekly basis, practically. Yeah.
You seem, Mickey, and I don't want this to sound patronizing, but you seem happier than I've known you for a while, more content in your own skin, perhaps.
Well, you know, I think for some strange reason, the year and a half that I didn't leave my house, and I brought all my weight equipment and all my boxing equipment, and I isolated myself for a year and a half, it helped me kind of get centered about my priorities, and to the worst thing anybody can get is bitter. And that's the one thing I said I would never get. I remember several years ago being at the Cannes Film Festival, and there was an actor who used to be a movie star, but not anymore. And all he was doing was bad-mouthing some actor. And I was listening to him going, besides the fact that you're a junkie and an alcoholic, here you are bad-mouthing this guy. And it's like, you're just a bitter. And I go, I never want to get like that, you know? People say to me, what's your best film? And I say, I haven't made it yet.
Oh.
Which is a great answer, because it shows that you look forward, not back, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with both hands.
When you do finally have to look back because you're no longer with us, how would you like to be remembered? If you could write your own tombstone and it said, here lies Mickey Rourke,
I don't really care to be remembered that way.
Really? You don't want to be remembered at all?
No, I don't. It's not relevant to me. I'm looking forward to when I go to heaven and I can see where most of my friends are now. Well, some of them are in hell, but I mean, I'm looking forward to the next journey.
He's so
I
funny.
mean, I don't fear death. I fear dying, but I don't fear death because I truly believe it's going to be like a big happy reunion.
Who are you most looking forward to seeing up in heaven?
Most of all, my brother, my younger brother, Joey, my grandmother, my father, some aunts and uncles I didn't get to know. Tupac, good looking Thomas. Like to meet Steve McQueen, Paul Newman, all those guys, Monty Cliff, you know. So I mean, there's more people that I love. I mean, the older you get, the more people around you die. I mean, you know, 2 months ago, Ray Liotta was alive. And
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, Jimmy Kahn was alive. I mean, I miss Willie DeVille, one of my favorite singers, you know. And it's like, I've got more people, you know, gone than here. So it's like, you know, that's just another journey that I'm looking forward to.
Well, so am I, Mickey. It's been fantastic to interview you. Thank you so much for all your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. Pleasure.
All the best to you. You see, that's what I call an interview. That's the kind of interview I want on Piers Morgan Uncensored,
Yes.
because he's uncensored. That's the real Mickey Rourke. Warts and all, good, bad, sometimes ugly, but actually fascinating and compelling, wasn't he? And that's how I would like my movie stars to be. That's how I'd like everybody to be. Just say what's on your mind and don't worry about it. Better out than in, as my grandmother used to say.
Why am I crying? I can't believe that I'm crying. When asked about what is the best movie that he's done so far and he looks for the future, he doesn't think that he's made it yet. The hope is there. The admitting to the shame, the fears that he has, but the hope that he has. And I think it was so raw. It was so beautifully done. And Piers Morgan, at the end of the interview, when he says, this is what I'm talking about, this is what an interview is, and this is what I want people to be like, speak your mind, uncensored, don't be afraid. And I think I just got touched by the end of it because there was so much remarkable exchanges. There were so many remarkable exchanges between Piers Morgan and Mickey Rourke. It was almost like watching a great scene between two people. It wasn't just, oh, let me just ask a question and then I'm just going to care about myself, to make people see that my question is really, really great. There was so much listening and taking each other in. It was almost like a beautiful dialogue that you hope to see in great movies, you know? It blew my mind. I was reminded that his story, no matter how different, no matter how at first seems different, by the end of the interview, when he reveals all of who he is and what makes him who he is, our universal stories, there's one: life here, and then hopefully life after. I'm afraid of dying, he said, but I'm not afraid of death, because I know I'm going to meet some of the people who are going to be up there in heaven, but then some of them are going to be in hell. That was funny. He's also funny too. He's so funny. Oh God. Do you guys understand why you have to stop making comments on remarks that he makes about Tom Cruise or Roman Polanski or Amber Heard? Listen to the whole interview. Content matters. The person who is being interviewed, him, Mickey Rourke, is an artist. That matters when you take into consideration what he says. Look at how he behaves if you don't understand what he says or if you misinterpret his comments. Be an audience member and sit back and listen, really listen, and you will also be moved as I was moved. Thank you so much, everyone. This is episode 51, Hey Stella podcast. Oh my God, this was amazing. Piers Morgan, Mickey Rourke,